Hi team, welcome to Cloud Pandit in this Azure Data Factory Master Program video series. In today's session, this is hands-on. We will see how to copy files from source blob to sync blob on time range, okay, based on the time range using the exactly 15 steps we will do step by step. Okay, so when we will go for this particular scenario is, if you look at the real-time scenarios, right? So where we have some kind of a census data, some real-time data which is processed by some other on-premise systems or cloud systems and load it into the data lake storage or blob storage, right? So let's say in our case, we are loading data into the blob storage from the sensor. So there is a lot of data which is going to which is keep on adding to the existing source blob storage. So now what we need to do, if you're keeping entire data and processing daily, like every 24 hours, it will be very huge data. That's why what we will do is, we based on the source how much data it is generating, because in my experience I have seen there are a lot of data which is generated in a minute also by the sensors, right? So what happens is, based on such type of requirements, we may need to process data hourly. We may need to fetch the data every 2 hours or every 30 minutes or every 10 minutes. So there will be use cases. So now let's say you have a files which are loading into the source blob by the sensors. Now what you will do is, you want to fetch last 1 hour of data and load it into the target. So that is a target database, meaning maybe you want to process further once you extracted the last 1 hour of data. Okay, so the source blob you can consider as a staging layer where all the data will come and keep it. So from there we will just take this particular data and load it into the sync blob for the further process. Okay, let's do the lab quickly. So for this I needed two storage accounts, source blob and sync blob, on ADF, on integration runtime, two linker services, two data sets, one activity copy activity, one pipeline called ingestion pipeline. If you see hands-on steps, so there will be a three services which I need: source blob, sync blob, and ADF. Source side, I'll create a source container and I'll upload some files. So these files basically we need to filter out which are loaded in last 1 hour, or which are loaded from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, which are loaded from 1 to 2. So we will be just passing the time range from the uh, table config, or configuration tables will be there. So those configuration tables will generate the start time and end time. So how it will be generated is, end time is basically current time. So start time is going to be the current time minus 1 hour if we do. So that is basically goes for the, let's say current time is 3 o'clock, we generated minus 1 hour means from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Start time is 2 o'clock, end time is 3 o'clock. These two values will come from the some config table. So those advanced labs we'll see later, but for now the start time and end time I'll directly put it in the copy activity, and we will see between that time range we will try to fetch the data. Okay, once we have set up these folder structures in the source blob and sync blob, I'll open ADF, create two linked services, two data sets. I'll create a pipeline, then I'll use copy activity. I'll reference the source blob and sync blob. Source side, I'll be just putting the time range, between what time range files you want. I want files which are loaded from between 2 and 3 o'clock. So I will fetch only those files. Okay, so once everything is set up, we can run the pipeline. Okay, let's not waste any time. Let's quickly create the three resources which I need: source blob, sync blob, and ADF. Okay, log in into portal.azure.com. Don't go into that, cloudpandit@gmail.com. We will log in. So let's click on storage account, click create storage account, select pay as you go. So let's create a resource group called cloud pandit-dev-rg, dev-rg, okay, development resource group. So under this I'll be creating a cloud pandit source blob 1. Click review plus create. It is validating all the details that we have provided. Then create it. Come to the second tab, portal.azure.com. Click on this. Let's create the sync blob storage. Okay, let's log in into the sync blob. So just click on storage account, click create storage account, come down. So select here cloud pandit-dev-rg, cloud pandit sync blob 1. Just click review plus create. So here also it is validating all the details. Everything is fine means click create. Now open the third tab portal.azure.com. Let's log in into this account. We will create the now Azure Data Factory. Okay, let's log in into the Data Factory. Click create Data Factory. Select the resource group that we created. This is the one. And Data Factory name Cloud Pandit ADF version 2. 2208 is the today data I'm giving. Just click review plus create. So running final validation, everything is fine means it will enable to create. Okay. Now we just created these three. So I'll go to the source blob. I'll upload some file syncs and I'll create the sync content. Okay. Let's come to the source blob. Let's go inside the source blob. Come down to the containers. Let's click container. So this is, you can set first container, create it. Inside that you can just upload some files. So randomly I'll just upload few files now. Okay. Set different comma, maybe 20 seconds. I have some 4 different files. I'll just upload all of them. Just click upload. So if you look at these files are loaded just now at 3 o'clock 4 minutes. Okay. Sync blob. I'll just create what? Sync container. Okay. This is a cast out. Create it. Okay. Now, so next step is open ADF, create 2 linked services and 2 data sets. Let's come to the Azure Data Factory, open Azure Data Factory, come down, launch Data Factory. So now click on manage. Let's create a 2 linked services for blob, Azure blob. This is ls for blob for source. Come down. This is a subscription. This is a source blob 1 test connection created. Let's create a new linked service blob for ls for blob for sync. Come down, select the subscription, storage upon MS sync blob 1 test connection created. So you can say ls blob source linked service and sync linked service we have created. Let's go to the author. Let's create a 2 data sets. There's a new data set which is for the source blob we will create as a CSV. So this is source data set. We need to use a source linked service. Select the container, that is a cast container. Under this, we need to take the files based on the time range between the maybe 3 to 3:5 or from 3 o'clock 5 minutes to 3 o'clock 10 minutes. So that time range, between that particular time range, whatever files arrived into the source block, only those files we will be copying into the sync side. Okay. Browse it, select custom, click OK, click OK. So now what are the next step? So we need to add a pipeline, copy activity, use these 2 data sets. Finally, we can run this. Okay. So very simple. Create a pipeline. So we can call this pipeline as a PL for data ingestion. Now you can just bring the copy data. So what is source? Source is this, sync is this data set. So if you look at here, source is pointed to the container, you need to use a wildcard file. But if you run this, as you know, it will load all the files. It will load all the files. So that's why what I need to do is, instead of loading all the files, I want to load files. Let's say these files are loaded at 3 o'clock, 4 minutes, 59 seconds. Now I'm going to upload the files. Okay, maybe let's upload some other files. What are the other files that we will upload? Maybe data quality, day 1, day, something like this. Okay, so let's wait for a minute or so, then we will upload again files, because the files which are uploaded after 3 o'clock 8 minutes, I don't want to pick. So I want to pick the files which are loaded between 3 o'clock 5 minutes to 3 o'clock 9 minutes, meaning 8 o'clock some 40 seconds, something like that. But I don't want to pick the files which are loaded after 3 o'clock 9 minutes. So that's why I'll just wait for a minute. Just let's wait for a minute. Yeah, if you see now the time is 3 o'clock 11 minutes. So now I'll be uploading some more files. Let's upload some more files. Okay. So if you see some of the files that I'm going to upload is sample D3 dim underscore cust, all these three files. Okay. So if you look at, I want the files which are loaded between 3 o'clock 5 minutes and 3 o'clock, between 3 o'clock 5 minutes to 3 o'clock 10 minutes. If you see, so these are loaded before 3 o'clock 5 minutes. So these are not eligible, these four. These are loaded after 3 o'clock 10 minutes. These are not eligible. The files which came between the 3 o'clock 5 minutes and 3 o'clock 10 minutes is these three files. Okay, let's see whether these are picked or not. So for that, what you need to do is you need to configure it here. So this can be also dynamically configurable. Okay, so add dynamic content. Now what I'll do is, so you need to basically convert our convert to UTC. There is a function. So what it does is basically we can able to understand if I mention the time in the IST. So but the ADF can able to understand only the UTC. That's why whatever IST time that I'm keeping here, that needs to be converted into UTC. Let's see, 2023 08 2022. So 15 minutes, sorry, 15 hours. Okay, 05 minutes 00 seconds. Okay, so this is in the India standard time. Okay, so this is the start time. We are defining the start time. So from 3 o'clock 5 minutes onwards, okay, from this particular time. Okay, so this time I am converting into the UTC. So UTC can able to process it. Add dynamic content here. So I want the files which are loaded till 3 o'clock 10 minutes. Maybe in real time we will be looking at the hourly basis or the minutes of minimum of 30 or 15 minutes, but I have taken here just 5 minutes. This is just for our practicals, right? So but why I converted into UTC, because this last modified start time and end time expects in UTC. Just I mentioned in IST and converting into UTC. IST I mentioned just for your understanding. It will be easy for you to understand. That's why I'm putting in the IST, and then I'm converting into the UTC that is understandable by Azure Data Factory. Okay. Now let's run this particular pipeline. So if you look at here, right, just to open this. Okay. So files read is 3, files written is 3. Which files are written into the sync cell? Let's see. The files that are written here is data quality day one processed and day one.csv. See day one.csv, day one processed, data quality. These are the three files which are came in between 3 o'clock 5 minutes and 3 o'clock 10 minutes. But these are out of range. These are below range. These are below range. So these all filters we are able to successfully filter out. Okay. So thank you all for watching this. So let's quickly discuss summary questions. What is the purpose of last modified start time option in copy activity of Azure Data Factory? As you know, it specifies the minimum modified timestamp of the source data to be included in the copy activity. So minimum time means 3 o'clock 5 minutes we mentioned. That is the minimum time from which later on whatever data is modified, those things it is going to pick. So the answer B is correct. So the last modified end time refers to the maximum modified timestamp. We have mentioned 3 o'clock 10 minutes, which is the maximum. So after that, whatever files are modified doesn't care about it, right? Because we need the files which are modified before 3 o'clock 10 minutes. Okay. So the answer A is correct for this. Next, when using the last modified start time, last modified end time option in Azure Data Factory copy activity, what is the purpose of defining a time range? Time range is basically to ensure that only data modified within the specified time range is copied. Instead of copying everything, we are going to copy the data which is mentioned in the specified time range. The answer D is correct. How can the last modified start time and end time options to be used to optimize data copying in Azure Data Factory by limiting, by reducing network, by excluding data modified outside this. Yeah, the answer C is correct. By excluding, by just ignoring or removing, or you can say we are not removing, but we are just ignoring the data which is modified outside of the specified time range by using the last modified start and end. What happens if the last modified start time is set to time later than the last modified end time, meaning 3 o'clock 10 minutes at the start and 3 o'clock 5 minutes at the end? If you put, the pipeline is going to fail. Okay, so the copy operation will fail. That is option A. Next, which data sources and sinks are compatible with the last modified start time and last modified end time options? Almost all the any source and sink supported by the Azure Data Factory, we can use this. Okay, option C is correct. Okay, that's all, team. So I request all of you to subscribe my YouTube channel, and if you have any questions, feel free to put your questions in the comment section.